Hi everyone, my name is Lindsay Bechtold, and today I will be talking to you about the cognitive dissonance theory. So before we begin, I just want to let you know of a link that I have under my discussion board where I submitted this video. I have a link to my PowerPoint presentation. If you want to pull that up alongside this video, it might make it a little bit more exciting. Not too exciting, but it might just help a little bit. And just to explain my headphones, where are they? Here they are. I'm not listening to music. I'm just using them for the little mic because it's better on these than my desktop computer. So sorry if that looks weird to anyone. So before I start my presentation, I'm just going to go over what I will be speaking to you about. I'm going to be describing cognitive dissonance, giving the definition of what it is and how it relates to us. Also, I'm going to give you a bunch of examples because I don't really want to bore you over the next 10 minutes. I just want you to understand and describe to you what cognitive dissonance is. And through my extensive research, 15 sources to be exact, I found a lot of great examples, and that's how I learn the best. That's what I can relate to, and it just helps me understand a lot better because I didn't know a ton about cognitive dissonance before I started, and now through great examples and great literature, I have a really good understanding of what it is. So hopefully, I can relay that message to you as it's a very important theory, especially in communication studies. All right, so to get started, I want to share with you guys a quote. This quote caught my eye early on in my research, and it really helped me. Festinger wrote it. He's one of the founders of the cognitive dissonance theory, so I value what he has to say. So here is the quote. It's from 1957. And here it is. The basic hypothesis I wish to state are as follows. Number one, the existence of dissonance being psychologically uncomfortable will motivate the person to try to reduce the dissonance and achieve consonance. Number two, the person will actively avoid situations and information which would likely increase the dissonance. So if you let that sink in for a little bit there, it kind of starts to describe what cognitive dissonance is. Um, Basically, as humans, we have our ideas, our beliefs, and our attitudes, and our morals, and our values. They're all instilled in us. We're constantly, even though we're not constantly thinking about them, everything we say or do, we're measuring up against them. And we speak a certain way because of what our morals are and our values are. So when we go against our morals and values and what we believe, we have a feeling of discomfort, which is also called dissonance. In order to get rid of that dissonance, we have to have a motivation pushing us to get rid of it. Um, Another example Festinger gives is, quote, communicators carry around a rich assortment of cognitive elements, such as attitudes, perceptions, knowledge, and behaviors. This text was from Littlejohn and Foss, 2011, page 5. So this just describes the different feelings that we have that give us dissonance when we go against them. So I'm going to start off by giving you one of my examples. This one really is when I started to understand what cognitive dissonance is and how it's kind of contradicting beliefs and it's kind of going against what you believe. That's why you have that feeling of dissonance. Um, so the example I'm going to use is a man. This isn't a real man. I'm sure he's real, but this is just an example. So say his name is Joe Fresh. So Joe Fresh is very environmentally friendly. He recycles and he plants his own vegetables. He's very green, as some people would say. So, stereotypically, you think that this Joe Fresh character would drive a Prius or even a little smart car, something that's good on gas and not bad for the environment. So, if one day Joe Fresh went out and bought this big Ford F-150 or any of the F series or any kind of big truck, this would be um, contrary to what he believes. It contradicts everything he's about, pretty much. You can't really go around wearing a green hat with a little leaf on it and in a big truck, kind of blowing all this diesel and gas everywhere. This wouldn't make any sense, and I guarantee you that Joe Fresh would have a feeling of dissonance because he would not feel right about what he was doing. Which I don't know why he bought the truck in the first place, but this is all just an example. So, in order to go against that dissonance and get rid of it, Joe would have to have motivation. He'd have to have something pushing him to change his current state. So, he would have to sell his big truck and get a Prius or something that's more along the lines of how his beliefs and what he believes in with the environment. So that's a really good example, I think, to really put it into perspective about how that if you're acting completely abnormal and going against your morals and beliefs, that's going to make you feel uncomfortable. And we have to have that motive to make us change what we're currently doing. Um, Another example that is used by Festinger is hunger and thirst. This is in the book by Little John and Voss, our textbook. He talks about hunger and thirst, but this is um, a physical thing that's pushing you to change it. If you're hungry, if you have hunger, you're going to go get something to eat, and if you're thirsty, you're going to go get a drink to quench your thirst. Um, this is a very simple way of putting it. And sometimes when we have physical attributes that cause us to get rid of our dissonance, because the dissonance in this case would be hunger. In order to get rid of that, we would go eat something. So that's a very um, general example and a very simple one, but unfortunately, it's not always that simple. Humans, we know our brains, they just work like crazy. They're always going a mile a minute. Um, and sometimes we do things that we don't really necessarily mean to. Or when we have a feeling of dissonance, if our motivation is strong, we're usually going to change it. We don't like to walk around with that awful feeling of dissonance and knowing that we're going against what we believe. Another example is something that I'm sure many of you can relate to as well. Um, for me personally, I work at a walking clinic, and I'll find myself speaking with my coworkers or my boss, and I'll kind of get carried away with the conversation and realize, wait a minute, this isn't what I believe, and this is not really my morals, and I just kind of lose track of what I'm saying, and that's just something I personally have to deal with. But um, and I'm not happy with it. It doesn't feel good when I leave the conversation or when I leave my boss's office. I don't have a nice feeling. And that's the dissonance inside me saying, Lindsay, well, it's God inside me saying this, but Lindsay, what are you doing? You don't need to be saying this. You don't talk like this. And the only way to change that and to diminish that dissonance is to ask God for help and ask God so that I don't talk like that or I don't even involve myself in those situations. Um, that's an example that I feel a lot of us we struggle with day to day. It's also a good Christian example as well. So just a general question. This helped me kind of get through my research paper. How does cognitive dissonance work, and how does it influence how we think and behave? So, the act of cognitive dissonance and the theory itself drives our every word, our every thought, our every action when you think about it. Because everything we do, like I've previously mentioned, we do it for a reason, and we do it because it's our morals and our values that's instilled in us. So with every decision we make, we subconsciously think about whether or not it's a good decision or it correlates with our values and beliefs. Um, this is something that psychologists are trying to prove the cognitive dissonance theory as wrong. Some people are saying it's false. Um, Only through a little of my research, I did see that people were saying that the theory is false, but overall, with all the research I did do, um, it's obvious that cognitive dissonance is a relative and very important theory. But the reason they try to prove it wrong is they say that it's human nature and it's common sense just to figure these things out. And if we go against what we believe, it's going to eventually figure itself out. But in fact, we have to have motive. We have to have something pushing us to get rid of that dissonance. That is the truth. Um, another quote that I have from Cooper, 2007, states, um, end quote, in the wake of an honest controversy, such as one that swelled around a dissonance theory, the ideas and findings and results that come from attempts to disprove, reinvent, and reestablish create a dialect that culminates in a deeper understanding of the phenomenon. And that was Cooper, 2012. So like I said, people are trying to prove the theory wrong, but in fact they're really helping the case because cognitive dissonance is real and it makes sense in our day-to-day life. So one last thing I want to leave you guys with is cognitive dissonance within Christianity. We all are attending Liberty University and in our master's program, and we all are along the same lines here. In Christianity, we know our values. We grew up with them. They were instilled in us in Sunday school when we were kids for some of us. And as we grow up, sometimes we go against what our values are and our morals. and we do things that we maybe thought we never would. And when we're doing them, we have that feeling of discomfort and dissonance, and we need to have that drive and that push to get help us change. We can't be doing this. So that feeling, it's God, and we need to make sure that we're asking God for help. And whenever we do feel that feeling of dissonance, we need God to help us get through it and to diminish that and squash it completely, because we shouldn't even be partaking in those things because that's sin. So that's just a good example within Christianity. Well, I'm at 10 minutes and 30 seconds, so I need to wrap this up. I hope you all learned a lot about the cognitive dissonance theory, as I think it's very important. It's one of the most popular theories in the communication strategies currently. So, anyways, I hope you all finished the class strong, and thank you for listening. God bless.